what's up? Welcome to a very special episode of The Blessing Show. I'm one of your hosts, Blessing Adeoye Jr., and joining me is the editor of The Blessing Show, Roger Picorni.
Hi. You didn't say how you didn't ask like, hey, how are you?
No, I like to throw your name out there and just see what happens. See what kind of response you conjure up for me.
Well, I'm doing great, and
Awesome.
this is weird. It's weird seeing. First of all, it's weird to see like the podcast setup of this, like on OBS. Like,
Yeah, I love that you put this together. The Blessing Show
cool.
podcast scene, which is something that we've not done before because, of course, for those watching and listening, I guess for watching because we don't have a podcast feed for The Blessing Show. For those watching, this is a very special episode of The Blessing Show because we are approaching about a year of doing The Blessing Show, right? A month from now, we'll hit a year of doing The Blessing Show. I figure that for a year, the year episode, we should do something special. Now, granted, I want to do the spoilers for next month's episode. I want to do the non-game of the year episode like we did last year, which is going to be next month's episode if everything goes right. But I figure, hey, for 11 months, let's do this, right? Let's do a Q&A, partly because Greg is out, and so a lot of us are busy picking up answering emails.
Maybe one person specifically on this podcast is very busy doing a certain job.
Like I'm doing a lot trying to pick up for that, and then also Roger, you're doing a lot. You edited the Arkham series that Barry did, and you also have like a lot of stuff that is picking up toward the end of this year. And so we figured to save ourselves a lot of stress and to like do something special and cool and different for the Blessing Show, we should talk about the inception of the show and what the show is and how the show has gone over the first year of doing it, and also take in a lot of questions from the audience because I tweeted this out a little bit earlier. I reached out on Twitter and asked people to submit their questions that they have for the Blessing Show regarding like, whatever it is, right? Whether it's bullshit questions or whether it is things like how do you come up with ideas and all these other things. And a lot of people came through and they dropped their responses. And so I'm very excited to dig into those. But I guess to start off, like, Roger, how does it feel to be almost a year into doing the Blessing Show?
It's wild. I mean, this is about my year anniversary at KindaFunny. I started November 3rd, I believe, last year. So I've almost since like the first day we came in here, you and I were having conversations about like, let's do something video essay, right? Like in general. And it wasn't ever like, hey, we're doing the Blessing Show. we never started off like we're doing a Blessing vanity project, everybody. We're gonna get Blessing out there. We're gonna do it was like, okay, let's try video essays. What would that look like at KindaFunny? Would we have rotating guests? And we had a lot of discussions with Tim, with you, and it just ended up being just you, me, and Tim. And then we're like, maybe it should be just the Blessing Show. Do you remember that moment? Like, did that feel weird for you?
It felt super weird because it was after having a lot of conversations in what this should be, because I remember the first time I brought it up to Tim, it was when Tim first hit me up to join KindaFunny back in fall of 2019. Jesus. And one of the first things I told him, I was like, dude, I want to do the Patriot Act, but for video games. And Tim was like, dude, I've already had this idea. We want to do this. Like, let's make it happen. And
just to be clear, not the Patriot Act, George Bush. We're talking about... We're talking Hassan Minaj.
Very good clarification. Yeah, Hassan Minaj, like his Netflix show, The Patriot Act, which is a lot like John Oliver, or like basically the 10 to 20 minutes sit down and let's talk about a hot topic and let's really break something down here. I really wanted to do something like that because when I was doing OK Beats before I joined KindaFunny, that was one of the things I really loved doing. I loved making video essays, and I wanted to move beyond that and make something that felt like the evolution of that. And I figured with KindaFunny, we could take that to the next level. And so going into the next year, actually being hired on to KindaFunny, it was the conversations I was having with Tim were, all right, when we get to the new studio, what's that show going to look like, right? How are we going to utilize the new studio to really, amp up the hype and do all these different things? And then inevitably, the pandemic happened and our new studio didn't happen. Our new studio is on the verge of happening finally, but it's been delayed over like a year and a half at this point, right? Yeah. Us getting into the new studio. And so that eventually led to us bringing on Roger, and Roger was always in the thought process for the show, right? Like one of the things that Tim told me was like, hey, we want to bring on an editor. We want to bring on Roger Picorni to help do this stuff. And the team of me, Roger, like Blessing, Roger, Tim, and a new studio is going to be banger for this new show. And so when you first came on, or when you were hired and we first started having those conversations, it was fun because that was one of the first things you brought up as well. That was something that we all really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was a thing that slowly evolved from how do we make this show? How do we format the show? What does the show look like? And it Yeah, I think I forget. One of the things we were trying to figure out was the name, and that is
Yeah.
how we landed on the Blessing Show because it was the thing of, all right, what if we called it this, this, and this? I forget what suggestions I threw out there.
Well, I mean, it was like, before it was blessing, before we realized like it was just because there are questions that we will get to later on about like, have you ever considered making other episodes with people other than blessing? And we did a Greg episode, but that doesn't really count. We don't talk about that episode, even though it's the most successful episode of the Blessing Show. We don't talk about
Of course, we don't talk about it.
it. It doesn't count.
First episode. The worst part of that episode is that we keep being about to reach it. Like I keep with my dreams episode keeps being about to catch up, and then Avengers news drops, and then that episode skyrockets. It's like, god damn it. I mean, good for the show, but
Yeah,
damn
but
it,
I
that
mean,
dreams episode, man.
Yeah, man, that's a good episode. But before that, we had major discussions. We're like, okay, like, is this going to be a multiple person thing? Is this going to be like, okay, Blessing 1 week, Greg 1 week, Tim 1 week?
Yep.
And so we were thinking about like KindaFunny podcast as a name. Like that's something Tim was thinking about. Just it's very simple and straightforward.
The kind of funny podcast, like the one.
I mean, not podcast. Sorry, video essays. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, it's been a day. And
I was gonna say I'd be down to have two kind of funny podcasts.
I mean, that's what Next Gen is
audience.
basically. But yeah, so that was it was kind of funny video essays for a while. And then we just started to realize like work wise, no one has time to do this. Like no one other than Blessing and me kind of have the time to make this happen. And Blessing barely has the time. So let's be honest. So like
I think it was that thing of I was the one who was the most passionate about hosting it. Like, I think Tim was interested. And, I know if we talked Greg into doing it, he'd be down to do it because Greg is down to clown with whatever. But I think it was the thing of me and Roger being the ones that were like, yo, let's do this. We really want to do this. And so in talking about what the show was going to be, we came to Tim with like our ideas. And one of the things asked was like, okay, is this Blessing Show? And I think that's where we were, and not the title, like, is this literally Blessing the Show? Yeah. And I think me and Roger were like, yeah, I think this is Blessing Show. And so we're like, cool, let's rock with it. And then what's it going to be called? And we were brainstorming. And one of the things I brought up was back in the day, like when I was trying to figure out like what a video essay show for me would look, or not even a video essay show. I've had the idea of calling something the Blessing Show back when I was still with OK Beast, if I was going to do my own show. And I just threw it out as like hey, like I've had this idea, not as like a serious suggestion. And Tim really liked it. Tim was like, actually, that works, because one of the things that we do here, peek behind the curtain, when we're creating a new show or naming a new show, I think the ideology that Tim likes a lot is just name the show whatever it is. If it is a daily video game show, call it Kind of Funny Games Daily, right? If it is a Kind of Funny podcast, call it Kind of Funny Podcast. If it's a games podcast, call it Gamescast, right? If it's a Kind of Funny Xbox podcast, call it Xcast. We try to go very literal, and we don't try to get too cute, because when we get too cute, that's when things start to get confused, and that's when I think brands can start to hurt in that way. And so when I brought up the Blessing Show idea, Tim was like, dude, that's actually perfect. And that's kind of how we rolled into it, even though from the get-go I wasn't thinking of it as a Blessing Show. I was thinking of it as like, oh yeah, our video essay series that we'll have Greg do episodes sometimes and Tim do episodes sometimes. But
I think Bless Up was one of the names.
Maybe. Yeah.
Didn't you say like Ragdoll or something? You had a video game name.
I had one that I really liked.
Yeah.
It was, I think Opinion Piece was an idea I had.
Yeah.
Momentarily. Not a serious idea, but it was one. Yeah. And then I did have a video gamey one that I really liked. It
was based off of a video game term. But that was thrown around, but we just ended up going very literal with the Blessing Show. And I gotta be honest, I was a little bit hesitant about it at first because, one, I hate Blessing. I just hate him. Yeah. He's the worst.
Like many do.
Yeah. I read the comments.
I read the comments. I don't read the comments.
I've
heard the audience is very nice to me.
Everyone's very nice to you. Everyone likes you a lot,
which blows me away, because I wouldn't be nice to myself if I heard the things that I say on the podcast.
The reason why I was a little hesitant on it was because I wanted to have that ability to have someone else jump in if Blessing was too busy. But then I thought about my favorite episodes of TV shows when they switch up the formats. The Eric Andre show when they do the Hannibal Buress show. And I'm like, that's my favorite episode of the Eric Andre show, is the Hannibal Buress episode. So I was like, okay, I can see us in the future doing Greg Miller episode show, Greg show or Roger show or whatever. And that just writes itself right there. And then I started to feel a little bit better about like, okay, if Blessing is super busy and is unable to do this or just doesn't want to because he's burning out, then we can have someone else jump in for a little bit and then continue the whole thing. But we've been really good with pacing ourselves this last month. A lot of we've we've had to change a lot of things, but we've been gotten
had to
better
figure
about
things
pacing.
out. Let's talk about that because we've done it for again almost a year now, and we've had 2 seasons effectively. We had that first stretch from January into I want to say like May-ish, where
Something
we
like
were going
that.
week
Yeah.
to week, and we had about 8 episodes. And then we took a break and then came back in July, but we started doing monthly instead of bi-weekly because we figured
August.
that would be a better.
We came out in August.
Oh
We
yeah,
had
we
the
came back in
interviews.
August.
We did the interviews, and my favorite thing is that we did those interviews in like June or something
June.
like that. And then I was like, "Yeah, the video should be coming out in August." And we're like, "Huh, okay."
Yeah, no, we're like,
a
it's
little
the
far
video.
out.
The video's gonna come out in July, and like we got to July, and like I think Roger was like, "Bro, no." Like
not
it was
happening.
it's that cadence of the way both me and you work, where I think both sides of the Blessing Show take a lot of work in terms of what I do, which is I write the episodes, I record like my audio obviously, and then I record video and do all that stuff, and then you do all the editing, and you also in terms of the script, we'll do like a lot of editing of the script. I'll write a first draft, send it to you, and then you'll do like a bunch of you'll give me a bunch of edits or suggestions and all that stuff, and then I'll go through and I'll comb it again, and then that is the version that I'll then record and send to you. But on both sides, the thing that has become a thing to figure out in the process as we started doing the Blessing Show is figuring out, all right, how far ahead do I need to get you what you need in order to edit? And so I always try to get you what you need like a few weeks ahead, and depending on the scale and scope of the episode, that might be enough, that might not be enough. In the case of the Returnal Roguelite episode, I should have foreseen that for this 20-minute episode that we wanted to do, because we wanted to go big, right? We wanted to do something that felt like a full episode of like a John Oliver, or something that felt like a no clip. Like, hey, we're putting in so much work into this, and it's gonna be a longer, full thing with like a lot of detail, multiple interviews, and all this stuff. I think I still got that to you theoretically like a couple weeks before it would have needed to have been done, and that was an oversight on my part. I should have thought way ahead of, oh, Roger's gonna need way more time.
Yeah,
to edit something that's double the length.
It was a running gag in our morning meeting for a while, where every week it would be like, if like the Blessing Show is coming out Thursday, and then the next week we're gonna be like, is that coming out this week still, or is that coming out next week? Like it was just like because it's just tough.
Yeah, me and Roger was just like, it's next week.
Yeah, because when you go, that's the thing that we were trying to deal with. Let's start from the beginning, right? When working on this project in the beginning, ever since November, when we first started, before the first episode was even released, we released it in January, I was working on trying to make sure it was templatized, at least the editing wise. Like we have the background you see right now in the video version, or I guess it's the only version you see, that is like one of the first things I created for the Blessing Show, to kind of create like this like texture throughout it all. And that was very important throughout the entire process, to create little moments and little things that we can repeat and we can rely on, that isn't just like, hey, we're starting from ground zero every episode. Like that is not the way that we wanted to do this. But as we started to make these episodes basically weekly, we started to realize that this is even, you can make as many templates as you want, you can have as many fonts as you want, it's still gonna have a lot of creativity, a lot of things we need to start from zero every week.
I feel so bad for you because you're the one who has to edit, and for me, like the joy of making the Blessing Show, especially with the last 4 episodes, I'll say last 4 episodes, I think we've hit such a good stride in terms of those episodes being our best episodes and us getting better and better as we go. And one of the things that we've done, and we've kind of done this from the beginning, but especially within the 4 episodes, I think we've hit the stride of what is the X factor for each episode? Like, what is the thing that is going to make that episode stand out? And so for our Dreams episode, obviously the entire episode was made in Dreams. And so like that was the X factor. That was something that was super special. And I think on the editing side, that wasn't as much of a hassle for you, but that did involve a lot of communication with the people that were making the dream and all that stuff. So that was a lot of work in and of itself. The Returnal or Roguelite episode, right? The Returnal and Hades episode. That episode, the gimmick for that one, or not gimmick, but like I guess the X factor for that one was, one, it being a longer, fuller episode. 2, us getting those 2 interviews with Derek Yu, Derek Yu, right?
Yeah,
Harry Kruger, from Returnal and Splunky. Those were like the things that would make that episode stand out, and I think that worked very well. Our EA Sports big episode, the thing was the ending of me going to the basketball court and playing a game of basketball with Andy, right? Like that was the thing that on the editing side, I still took a lot of work, because you have to like figure out like, that's not something that's templated. You have to figure out what that looks like, and I know that was you had to figure out like, hey, how do I make this look good
behind the curtains? That was a very last minute thing that I was like putting it off because that was like something completely. I don't edit like that. I don't do live action stuff mostly. So like editing that specific section, I was putting it off, and like 2 days before it came out, then that's when I started working on it. I was like, this is going to be the worst thing I've ever created. This is going to be so bad. But yeah, no, that is like from scratch. But that was the X Factor for sure.
Yeah, and that was the X Factor for that episode. And then for the latest one, the time loop episode, the X Factor was the structure of it being this like repeated, like, all right, this is how I'm gonna talk about these 4 different games. I'm gonna like start over and do the same shot and like, you know, do the thing where I sit down and, you know, I don't want to spoil the episode for people who haven't watched it yet. Go watch that episode. It is a fantastic episode. But yeah, like for each of those, the thing I try to do now is think outside the box and think like, what is the thing that is going to take this episode to the next level? And for you, that is the thing that you kind of have to like put up with and be like, okay, how am I going to edit this shit? Because now, like, I can't template the show now, right? Like we have like the red background, and I think we have an idea of what the Blessing Show is from a presentation, like, you know, like usually on full screen depending on like what the video is, and then like in whenever we're showing gameplay, it will be in this windowed red windowed area, and then like, you know, you have like I think a good standard for how motion graphics look and all this stuff, but nothing is gospel, which is kind of what I really like about the Blessing Show.
Yeah, no, it's very malleable, which creatively is fantastic. Like going back to the EA Big episode, like I had some of the most fun editing anything. Period. Like the editing of those that little EA with like the mustache and like the big muscles, like it's just so stupid to me. Like it's like it allows me to be creative and be dumb and also create something that I honestly believe is genuinely good video game media. Like it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it also takes itself seriously when it needs to. And that's something that we've been trying to work on and figure out. That's in as a whole, we've been trying to figure out what does the Blessing Show trying to say every episode. And I think that you said those X factors, but I also think that, you know, we've gotten better at basically having like a good thesis point every episode. Like I think that first episode is probably our roughest episode, and that's a good thing. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like going from that episode, which is just like, oh, IO Interactive would be pretty good at making a James Bond game, to now we're able to have a really great thesis point and like and really explore these topics. That's honestly, that's my favorite piece of the growth that we've had throughout these last year.
The Blessing Show is easily, I'd say, my favorite content that I've made, and the best content, and especially within the last 4 episodes. Like overall, like the Blessing Show I think is amazing. The last 4 episodes are some of the best stuff I think I've ever made and we've ever made. And so like, yeah, I'm very happy with what it's turned into. And yeah, I'm really excited to get into some of these questions. But before we do, Roger, do you have any last words while we're still here before questions?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, like, again, thank you all for watching. This has been really a dream come true. And I think that, like, as a whole, like, this is the video essay series that I've always wanted. Like, I watch a lot of video essay series, and like, they're great stuff, like really amazingly edited, amazingly written. But I like the idea that there is this kind of mixture of like bringing in interviews, and like we're also able to bring in other people's perspectives into this, and that's something that I want to do more in the future too. It's a lot of work, but we're trying. That's why we're doing this monthly, to try to incorporate that a little bit more. But I'm just grateful for the entire audience for allowing us and giving us this opportunity to make some cool shit. So
I know the way we're talking is, I'm sure for people watching, they're like, are they about to end the Blessing Show?
No, we're not.
This isn't us like being like that. The Blessing Show is over after this year. I think we will be taking a break after the New Year episode, but we do plan to come back bigger and stronger than ever. And I cannot wait. I know like we keep teasing the new studio, and the new studio got delayed, which don't think about that too much. But I can't wait for what the Blessing Show looks like in the new studio. Like that is a thing that I think we're super excited about. And yeah, you like this show is here to stay for the most part, right? Like, dude, as long as
if Dune can get a sequel, we can get a sequel. You know what I mean? That's what's happening. Like if
they say that we're the Dune of Kind of Funny,
yeah, exactly.
They also say that we're the Doom of Kind of Funny, but I don't pay those people no mind. But yeah, like and something to shout out as well, right? The Blessing Show is very much driven by like me and Roger wanting to make it. You know, a lot of the shows for Kind of Funny, when you think of the podcast and all this stuff, a lot of that stuff is driven by, hey, like KFGD, we got to hit 5 episodes a week because it's ad driven. We got to satisfy our sponsors, right? Like PS Loving You and most of our podcasts as well are that same thing. The Blessing Show being short format and being this thing that we launched purely out of, hey, we want to do this. that means this show dies and breathes based off of me and Roger wanting to make this show. And so this show is going to exist as long as me and Roger want to make it. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that we'll always want to make this show, right? And I think that's part of why we take breaks, is because it's nice to get a breather. But yeah, like, not to worry. Like, I'm so happy with how the Blessing Show has gone in the last year, and I cannot again wait to see what the future of it is, especially in that new studio.
Absolutely.
Now, Roger, you pulled a lot of questions off of Twitter.
I did. So I think that a general question, right? Like, as a whole, to start off, this is not a specific person because we've gotten this question a lot. How do you come up with your ideas? That's the general question. So maybe we can talk a little bit about, you're the person that comes up with the topics for the most part. So what is your thought process behind coming up with a topic, and what is the filtration system? Because I'm sure you've had a lot more topics that you thought about and you haven't even talked to me about. So how do you come up with a topic and then realize this is a good one? We should stick with this one.
So it's changed over the year. I think early in the year, I looked a lot to things like The Point for inspiration on what the Blessing Show was going to be. And for those who may not know, The Point is Danny O'Dwyer's show that he had when he was still with GameSpot, and this is circa like 2014, 2015. And that show would do a lot of relevant topics. It would basically be like, what is the big news of the week? All right, cool. Let's talk about how we feel about this big news and what is the lesson we can learn. And so it was very much about relevancy. That is how I approached it in the first few episodes, where beyond the non-game of the year thing, like the IO Interactive James Bond episode was coming off of Hitman 3 is coming out in January, and we just got the announcement of the James Bond thing. How do we let's jump on that
Star Wars thing?
The Star Wars thing was coming off of the Star Wars news of Lucas Games coming back, and so like that's what that was. And then we had like next gen 3 months later, right? Like I think we were really trying to go for what is relevant, what is hot. Let's have something to say about things in real time. And I think that has heavily changed into, okay, instead of doing that, what is something that we want to talk about, or like what is something that we have something to say about? I think that's become more of the focus, because I think it became less worthwhile to chase after the trends and chase after like the newsy stuff, because we have those shows on every single one of our other gaming products. We talk about news. We literally have Kind of Funny Games Daily, where we talk about our opinions about the news, and we have PSLW, which we talk about our weekly opinions about video game news, and Gamescast reviews, right? And the challenge for Kind of Funny for making like new games content is usually, how does this fit in? How do we do this in a way that it's not eating into something else? And so I think we found that harmony between shows a lot over the past couple of years that I've been here. We've launched shows like PSW, XCast, and others. But I think the challenge for Blessing Show is figuring out, where does Blessing Show fit in that equation? And I think it's turned into more of a like no clip style. Hey, we're not going to worry about the relevancy of things. Let's worry more so about taking where I think I'm at with video games and what I'm playing and what I'm thinking and seeing, and just turning that into a bigger discussion and topic.
Yeah,
Roger, does that sound
yeah,
right?
No, absolutely. And you hit the nail right on the head in the beginning. We were chasing those trends. Like we were definitely trying to figure out, we're like, what's going to be popular in October? Like, you know what I mean? Like we're trying to like pinpoint what might be happening around then. But I think that once we kind of let go of all of that, so we start to make better content. And it also just allows us to be interested in different things, like the Returnal stuff. I mean, not the time loop stuff.
Roguelike.
We've done a lot of Returnal content for the Blessing.
We have, which I'm very happy about.
The next episode will not be Returnal focused, but it probabh will be in there.
There will be Returnal will be in. It's the non-game of the year episode. Returnal's going to be in there.
Absolutely. But the roguelike episode, that was really freeing, because even though Returnal was sort of relevant, like we just took the time to just investigate this and really go into it and kind of grow our own knowledge and see how we can convey that to the audience. And that's that's generally what I find the most interesting about the show. And I love doing that. So yeah, we've really evolved with the topic choosing, but we do have a lot. I guess we can segue a little bit. Sorry, I'll let you continue. But we do have a lot of topics that we wanted to do, but we might not ever do. So maybe we can talk about them. I don't know.
Oh yeah, if I had to find the doc because I have a list of stuff.
Okay, I'm excited.
Yeah, I like jot down whenever I have ideas. With some of these I won't say because I think I'll still get around to them. But like one of them, my favorite ones that where this was when we were still working on the show pre launch and figuring out episodes, and we were like, leading up to that January, we had already tried to can certain episodes, and we were trying to figure out, okay, what's gonna be hot in January. One of the things I had mentioned was, hey, we gotta have a cyberpunk episode because cyberpunk.
I forgot about this.
Yeah, because this is like the beginning of January. Cyberpunk hadn't come out yet, and we were like, cyberpunk is gonna be the biggest game in the world. So how do we make sure we have a cyberpunk episode? And what I have written here in my notes of like episode ideas, is like a cyberpunk. Like how cyberpunk is changing open world games or something like, and this is before we had played it. And so like that I think that was one of the reasons why like after a certain point I kind of gave up on that. But then also to your point of us making better content, one of my favorite episodes, which I think I'm going to say this about every single episode now that I think about it, because we've only had like 10 episodes, or I guess maybe like 12. We've had quite a few episodes.
This is the 12th.
Damn, that's wild. One of the episodes we did was the puzzle gaming episode. Like, how do you make a good puzzle game? Which is probably one of the least popular episodes. But I think that episode in terms of quality is so good and was such a step up. And that's to say that, like, even though we don't try to chase like the hot topic, hot relevancy, there's also like a balance of, okay, we can't get too niche. We can't get too niche. And if we do, we got to do it in a way that, at least for me, in the way I think, I try to do it in a way that wraps back around into something that people are interested in. So that's why the roguelite video has Hades and Returnal as kind of the central focuses. Yeah, and Splunky, but Splunky wasn't in the title because we were going for like, okay, what are people going to be interested in?
Yeah, and it's also interesting because I think that puzzle episode was like weirdly niche, but then also weirdly general, which also didn't help us at all. Like talking about puzzles in general is like, okay, I guess people like puzzles, but then it's also niche because no one. It's just a strange. But that is something.
Yeah, nobody looks at puzzles and goes, "Oh, let's fucking go puzzles."
Except for Kevin Quello, apparently Kevin Quello was like, "If I'm gonna ever watch an episode of the Busing Show, which he still hasn't, he's like, I would watch that one."
He would love the puzzle episode.
He would love the puzzle episode
because it's a great episode, and more people should have watched it.
And that was I forget about that episode too sometimes, just because we've done so much stuff in between that. But like that was the episode where I remember helping to run that interview that you had, and that was like honestly like I was rewatching that. I wasn't there. I was rewatching the interview and I was like kind of blown away. I was like, oh wow, like this is really valuable, talking to a developer and being able to understand and pick their brains about the piece of art that they've created. And it just made me feel, as someone who is almost always feels like very like behind the scenes and not part of the industry almost too much. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're out there, you're talking to people all the time. I'm like twiddling my thumbs, like typing away in the dark. It just felt like, I was like, oh wow, we're doing something with the community and with gaming. And like, it didn't feel like it was just you and me making something. It felt like this was something a little bit bigger. And that was kind of an eye-opening moment for me. And that ever since then, I've been hounding you to do more interviews and to varying extents.
And I think that has worked out, right? Like that led into us doing the roguelite interviews with Harry Kruger and Derek Yu, and then also like us doing the Souls episode with Imran Khan and Tamara Hussein, which was like a different side of it, right? Like that was me interviewing folks who are on the media side as opposed to the dev side, which was its own challenge that was very fun to figure out, because that was 2 interviews which we hadn't done before up to that point. And that was the thing I learned in doing those ones where I have to have somebody doing time codes, because we didn't have any time codes or anything like that. And that made doing that episode such a struggle, because it was the thing of, I have a list of questions, but naturally when you're interviewing somebody, you kind of want to go off of the things that they're saying, and so you don't go in the order of the questions that you've written down. And so I'll go back and forth, and like these are 15 to 20 minute long videos, and I don't have the time to like sit and watch 45 minutes or like 35 minutes worth of content over and over again to get the good bits. And so after that, I started hitting you up to be like, hey, can you take time codes? You're like, oh yeah, let's go for sure. And that made the roguelite episode, I think, so good, because I didn't have to worry about like all this wasted time. I knew exactly where to go in the videos for the moments I needed to pull for the script. And yeah, like I think that puzzle game video leveled up the Blessing Show in a weird way. Like even though it wasn't the most popular episode, every episode after that I think was better because of that episode.
Hey, it solved our own puzzle, if you can say. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
whoa.
Oh, bro, think
Meta.
about it. Think about
So
it.
like when I go through the list of episodes that I've written down here, like one that I had an idea of is the opinions we're not allowed to have, which would be a video. that sounds spicy.
That sounds wild, dude.
But I mean that in the way of like people talking about the games that like are historically hated, or the games that people don't like, or the games that like are the opposite way around, right? Like the games that people love and they feel the opposite way about it. My idea for that episode was to interview a bunch of people and be like, cool, what is like the one game that you love that everybody hates, or what is the game that you hate that everybody loves, and kind of go through and talk about the way we talk about games and the way that video game, I guess, criticism and opinions work, right? And like I like the
Yeah.
I have a blurb that I had written next to that idea, and I wrote down here, right, like the opinions we're not allowed to have, and then in parentheses, basically a video that would double as me talking about my love of Detroit Become Human, while also inviting a panel of diverse folks to talk about the controversial love for games that they have.
Yeah. And that's a good one. I kind of like that. I kind of like, at first that got me angry, but then also that is something that you can work into. You know what I mean? Why do we get angry about someone else's opinion about something like that?
Yeah,
that's interesting. My favorite one. Can I pull one? If that's okay. My favorite one that we will never do now. But I really want to do something like it. Is we played every single Housemarque game.
And, yeah,
dude,
I forgot about this.
So we were, because this is in the beginning of the show when we were trying to figure out like, okay, in March, what are we going to have? And this, what are we going to have? And we were like, oh, Returnal's coming out. I forget, when did Returnal come out? March?
It was going to come out March, but I think it got delayed till like later.
April.
But yeah, at this point, we were going for March.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, we have a lot of time for this. So what if we did like one of those videos where it's like, I watched every blank director's movie or whatever. Let's do that for Housemarque. Let's play every single Housemarque game.
Yeah, because like I was trying to figure out what is a banger headline, and I was like, a banger headline is for leading up to the release of Returnal. The headline is, I've played every Housemarque game, the Blessing Show. And that, like, when I tell you that we were all in, I had hit up Greg and I was like, Greg, I have a bonkers request for you. Yeah. How do I get a code for every single Housemarque game? And let me let people know, right, that when the way this idea evolved, it was originally going to be, I was going to play every Housemarque game from like Resogun forward. I was going to play the PS4 Housemarque games. And Roger was like, no,
you got to play boring. I would be so mad.
Every Housemarque
dude,
game.
If I clicked on a video, it's like, I played every Housemarque game. It's like, I played 4 Housemarque games in the last month. I would be so mad.
Dude. You put out a lot of games on the PS4, but then you were like, no, you got to play every single Housemarque game. So I was like, I looked through and I was like, fuck, that is a lot of games. They put out a lot of games, and like a lot of them are just generic ass, like, here's a golf game that we made. And it's like, oh.
They have like 3 golf games.
And so I really considered and thought about it. I hit up Greg and everything. And I think I quickly reached the point. It was a couple weeks later into this idea, and I was just like, no, I can't do this, Roger. I'm sorry. I can't do this.
I was so down, man. Because I really want us to do that in some. I feel like one day it's just gonna hit us. It's gonna be like the perfect amount of games, the perfect developer, and it's just gonna work. But that is something I do want to go back to.
Maybe it's Arcane. Honestly, I'll be down to play every Arcane game.
Yeah, that could be it. What's the next game? Redfall?
The next game is Redfall. That's coming out, I was going to say fall, summer of next year, which is kind of soon. But also, I don't know if Redfall is going to have hype like that for me to play every single Arcane game to lead into that. We'll figure it out. Who knows?
We'll figure it out. This is not a pitch session right now. But
no, yeah.
Any other good ones on the list?
Good ones is like a questionable way to
Sorry,
put it.
Are there any bad ones to share with the audience?
One of the ones I have here, which I never ran by Andy, but it is How to Be a PC Gamer with Andy Cortez.
Okay. I kind of like that.
Yeah, where it's like basically Andy's version of the Blessing Show that Greg did. And so that was an idea. Oh, I have one that I still want to do, but I'm not gonna review that one because that would be a good one.
So then let's transition there, talking about Andy's version of the Blessing. So I guess you answered that. We have a question from atlasKenny. What do you think the blank show starring some other members of KindaFunny would look like? Very curious to hear you all describe the Kevin show in particular.
Kevin show would be chaotic.
Yeah, Kevin show I think would just be him fixing like things, like I don't know, like doing I don't know. Does he do like electrician stuff? Because I go on the KindaFunny games account and I see like recommended like electrician videos, and I'm like, that has to be Kevin, right?
Oh, that's for sure Kevin.
So
Yeah,
I
that's
want to
for
see
sure,
that. I
Kevin.
want to see whatever he's doing there. Like, I just want to see that, just a very dry video, like a dry video, just him, just very calm, fixing something.
It's wild because we've had a show called The Game Over Greg Show. Like these
yeah.
shows have existed, right? Like I feel like a Greg the Greg Show would be just an hour long podcast of him talking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do
or a
have
Greg
one.
way.
I do have one for Mike, which I will not reveal because I will be doing that. We will be doing that. I've talked to you about it, but I think my most interesting one that I really want, that I've been pitching for a while, which probably will happen, is the Nick Scarpino show. Which
Oh my God.
I just want it to go on Kind of Funny Prime, and I want it to be just him talking about Die Hard or whatever.
And you want
Just-
this to be a Blessing Show spinoff, right?
like I wanted a full like episode. Like I will
love
make
this.
different. I will make it blue, the background blue, because I feel like that works for him better. Like, you know what I mean? Like we'll change all the graphics. We'll make it nice. So that's something that, maybe a thermometer you have to fill to get it
God,
in the near future.
I would love that. What other questions we got?
At thesamgillard on Twitter says, inspired by the Dreams episode, what other games would you like the Blessing Show to be made in? This is interesting. This is
that's a really good
fun.
one.
And like, I don't think this has to be like just for games that have customization or anything like that. Like, I'm talking like we could probably, this is like we talk to the devs, we're working with them, they put us in the game. You know what I mean? Like, so it could
Damn,
be any game.
You're thinking like big ambition here. I was gonna say.
Well, I'm just saying, like I don't want to limit your responses.
Yeah.
I'm saying it could be any game. My game is Minecraft. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, see, I was gonna go a Roger episode about Fortnite because you love Fortnite and you make it entirely in creative mode.
Ah, that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that's fun. And I'd find there has to be. There's so many fucking skins in this game. I could find one that looks sort of like me. You know what I mean?
Oh, for
Just
sure.
enough that people are like, okay, that's
For
fine.
sure. And like it's not like Dreams where I don't think it's like Dreams where you can like puppet a character in the way that they puppeted me, but I think you could use creative mode to maybe just make certain scenes or like illustrate certain things. I feel like that would be off the chain.
Wait, that's
I
really
love
good
that.
idea. Shit, I was thinking Minecraft. I was like if we're gonna do something
You
like
can do
this.
the same thing.
Yeah,
in Minecraft,
I could.
I would think.
Yeah, I would really like you just to be in like Death Stranding 2. Like they just put
Oh
you
my
in
God.
there, and then we make a whole video inside of Death Stranding 2.
Figure out like talk to Jeff Keighley.
The
be like, hey, I
first
know you
ever
love
real
Kojima.
Strand type video on YouTube. Holy shit!
This is a really fascinating question.
Yeah,
Because like for some reason the first thing came to my mind was Roblox, but I was like,
Yeah.
why would I ever do that? Why would I ever do that? Like I don't play Roblox. I like that the core game that we've done like sponsor stuff for. I think that game's kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
But it's tough to think like, what I would like to do
What's up?
actually. Growing up, I really loved playing wrestling games, and one of the biggest draws for the wrestling video games are the creator wrestlers
Yeah.
and all the like the customizable stuff. And I used to be hooked on that. And I think I could do a whole Blessing Show script about playing like SmackDown versus Raw and why the customization of SmackDown versus Raw is the most important part of those games. And I think a way to drive that home would be hey, we make a creator wrestler of Blessing, and like we can do like a creative like. In SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, you could customize your character, you can customize the moveset, you can customize the stage entrance, which is always my favorite part because you can
Yeah.
pick the music and pick like each part of the entrance,
Like mix
coming
and
out.
match and
Mix
everything,
and
yeah.
match, yeah. I would love to do a Blessing Show that is based on that. Like I would love to do a Blessing Show that's basically what Machinima has always been, right? Like early YouTube when you're watching videos of like Red versus Blue or whatever, and it
Yeah.
is us playing characters as characters in a video game. I would love to do Blessing
Yeah,
shows
we
like
should
that. I
do
think
more
that'd
of
be
this
really
stuff.
fun.
We don't. Yeah, you're right. Like we don't have to go fully like, hey, we're doing a puppet. We're hiring a team of people. We're having people to basically spend a lot of time and make you in dreams and animate you. It could just be like a
Yeah.
machinima type thing.
I also like our answers because I think these answers very much epitomize like how me and you approach this, because I'm very much like, what is the lowest effort, but like what are the coolest things we can do with the
And
lowest
I'm like,
effort?
let's get
And Roger-
Kojima.
And Roger's like, how do we talk to Hideo Kojima? Play every single Housemarque game.
Yeah, I'm just looking for those headlines, bro. I'm just looking for those headlines. That's what it is. You
I
know what I
feel
mean?
you.
Like we're like you're the millennial and I'm the Zoomer. You know what I mean? We're like 20
Yeah.
years apart, and we're just
No.
looking at YouTube in different directions. Plus, we come
have
together
had-
and make magic.
We have had the opposite situation where I am like, yo, let's interview this big name developer. It would be crazy, right? For this video, and it'd be perfect. Like, I won't give the exact example because I think it's still in the pocket. But like, I remember you being like, well, do we want to use this for this video? Because, like, we can save this for a bigger video. This is a weird video to spend this opportunity to interview this guy with. And I was like, Yeah, but like think about it though, right? Like it'd be crazy. It'd be crazy. And
But
so
that's a good idea. Like doing that for a video that's just like, it's such a small thing. Like first aid kits in video games. Like we just do a deep dive on first aid kits in video games. It's like, all right, to talk about it is Jeff Keighley. Jeff Keighley's here. He's talking about it. We got him for an hour. He's talking about med kits in video games. Like we just use Phil Spencer's here. He's talking about it. We just get all of these major hitters. We use all of our cards on a video about med kits in video games, which would be fire.
Would be fire. That's the thing is like I would be totally down for it. That sounds like a big video. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many views that would get?
That would get so many. That would be so fun.
Yeah, people would be so confused. It's like, why is Jeff Keighley here?
You guys will see that video in 2023 when we get Phil Spencer. So, man. On Twitter, @AaronSeaney says, how much collaboration goes into the actual editing process? Do you have notes and feedback for Raja after you see the first cut, or is it typically just good on the first pass? Also, do you write the show with the editing in mind? This is something that Blessing and I have had to work through throughout this process, just because it's been, we've had to work with each other and figuring out like, okay, what is the best time to send, versions? What is the best time for collaboration?
What works for our workflows? Like, when is the, like at what point in the editing process, like does Roger send me his video for me to give feedback and all this stuff? And I think we've done a really good job of figuring it out over the years. Because I think early on, when we're trying to figure out what is the Blessing show, I think there's a lot to iron down in terms of what my vision is versus what Roger's vision is and how those things meet in the middle. And so there was like a lot of feedback early on of me sending Roger a script and that script having like 1 million comments, and then Roger sending me like a video and me giving him 1 billion comments.
Dude, I didn't think it was gonna work out in the beginning. I was so scared. I was like scared because I appreciated it, and then everything you were saying was like I saw it, but I was like, we just fundamentally just did not agree in the begining of like what we were thinking the show was going to be. And after we finished the first episode and everything, we started to get back on the same page. But like at the beginning, it was a little rough. We were never fighting or anything, but it was just like, it was just like, we just had like a lot of, and my favorite thing is that we had all of these notes in a group chat with Tim, and Tim had no notes. So Tim was just like, glad to see you guys communicating.
Yeah, Tim was like, oh, you guys are doing great. And me and Roger was like, yo, I want this to be X, Y, and Z thing. And Roger's like, but I need X, Y, and Z thing. Like, this is what's hot with the YouTube kids. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about the YouTube kids. I want to make something that's gonna end up editorial. I want Kotaku to quote me. Like that. Yeah. I love it though. Like I feel like it was such a good like exercise in figuring out like what is gonna be at the end of the day, because I feel like now I keep going back to the last 4 episodes. The last 4 episodes I think have been magic in terms of us understanding what the show is and us being able to work and play off of each other's skill set and like know what the other person is thinking, what their direction is going to be, and all these things, right? Like now, like I'm when I send you a script and you have like only like a couple of notes for me, I'm surprised. I'm like, oh shit, like okay, I think Roger understands.
Same thing when I send an edit. So I send an edit sometimes, and I'm like, I don't think he's gonna like these edits. I don't think he's gonna do. I don't think he's like, because Blessing and I have very distant. I wouldn't say very, but we do have distinctive senses of humor and what we find funny in edits. So like in the beginning, it was rough where I would send something, he'd be like, I don't know if that jump cut works. I don't know if that works. I'm like, but the kids love it. The kids love it.
Yeah, like the punch-ins of like, like somebody says a joke or like I reference a thing and then like I forget exactly the thing. I think it was like Anakin Skywalker comes in and says some shit.
Yeah.
That's like not necessarily my type of humor.
We've toned that down for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think we've toned that down, and also like I've given up some leeway in terms of okay, this isn't my humor, but I see the vision. I can appreciate where Roger's taking this thing, and I've started to open up too to like that sense of humor, because I think I see a lot of the humor that you put into your edits and stuff. Like I think I see it as like a more like Zoomer YouTube, like very YouTube humor, and my humor is very dry and like often very like I have a lot of corny humor a lot of times, but I view my humor I think at standardized like dry, and so like we're coming at it with Roger with the very wet humor and me with the very dry humor, and figuring out how to make like a good like gaseous humor.
Why the fuck would you call it a wet humor?
See, that's my humor. That's my humor. Is I just say dumb shit.
Yeah. No, but I think that we've opened ourselves up, both of us. Like honestly, like I am. I was all about the wet ass humor, and now I'm all about the dry ass humor, the da. And you've opened that up a little bit to me. No, but like I read your scripts, and like it goes both ways with like we just have less and less notes. We definitely do have notes for each other, and we definitely do help to elevate our work both sides, whether it's the writing or the edits. But we've kind of found this nice middle ground where I think we understand what the show is, and I'm just excited for next year because I feel like it's just gonna be better and better and better. So
Hell yeah.
I say that now, and then we're gonna make an episode about med kits and not have Phil Spencer. This is gonna be trash.
Jeff Keighley is the one who's.
Oh no, and both. No, I'm saying both. We're gonna.
Oh
both.
shit.
Okay, this is gonna be the last question. This is from @Levis_T. If you could get anyone in for an interview, who would it be? And this could be literally anyone. And this person did not specify if it had to be in the video game industry. Did not specify any of that. So I mean, I would want Hideo Kojima just because I think that would be cool, and we can say that's the first Stranding video.
Yeah, we can make the first Strand video. I think Hideo Kojima is my answer too. Yeah. Just because I would fanboy out and like have a lot to ask. And Hideo Kojima is one that I would love to get in that format because I feel like if I had Hideo Kojima on a Gamescast, I would just be way too nervous. I would prefer, I'd be way more comfortable being nervous off cam and having Roger do the editing magic and nobody knows.
They'll know. They'll see the sweat dripping down. They'll see, oh yeah, Mr. Kojima.
The armpit stains, and it's like, oh yeah, Blessing definitely handled this interview.
Start crying. I have to edit that out pixel by pixel. But that's for me. I think another one in general that I would want to do. Maybe this is me giving up too much. Maybe in the future, I don't know if this is even possible, but I would love to do like an in-depth interview on G4. Like the past, present, and also the future.
We can do that easily.
We can easily. I know it's probably giving up too much.
Friends, Roger.
Oh no, I know you do. I know you do. But no, I just think that like the past of G4 is just so integral to me, and growing up, like Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb and Kevin Pereira, like they really lit a fire under my ass. Like I want to be part of this industry, and seeing the fact that they went from that and then just like nothing, and then this again is kind of wild to me, and I really want to understand like the ins and outs of all this. I want to talk to Blair Herter about all that. That's just really interesting to me. And I think that's a much more doable one. It's not Hideo Kojima, but it is something that is a dream on my bucket list. I've always wanted to interview Adam Sessler specifically. So yeah.
That's a really good one.
Thank you, man. I'm full of good ideas.
Yeah. I think I'd also want to interview like, this is me as a PlayStation podcast host. I'd like to interview the higher ups at PlayStation, like a Jim Ryan or a Herman Holst, just talking about like do a deep dive discussion about strategy and what is your view of PlayStation Studios? Like, is this is this the future? Are you guys really like, do you guys continue to chase like the blockbuster, like Naughty Dog, Last of Us, God of War 2018 type games? Or like, do you guys want to expand? Like, I would like to ask all the questions about PlayStation Studios and PlayStation's strategy as a platform. I got so much that I want to dive into there. Yeah. But yeah, I think that does it for this very special episode of The Blessing Show. Roger, editor, thank you so much for coming through and joining me for this different episode, but a really good one. You know, it's longer than usually what they are. Again, they're usually under 10 minutes long. If this is your first Blessing Show episode, go watch a different one. I know it's probably too late to ask that now, but you've heard us talk about it. Go watch it. I had to recommend any of them.
There's a lot of. There's just a lot of podcast listeners on this channel. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is people's first episode, which is surprising. But please,
which is what's wrong with you? Go listen to go watch the actual episodes of The Blessing Show, right? Like go watch the time loop one because I think that one is super good. All of them are super good, but the time loop one is really, really good. But also the roguelite one is really, really good. And then the EA Sports big one is really, really good. And the Dreams one is really, really good. All the ones before that are really, really good, except for Greg Miller's episode, which you can skip out on.
Big old stinker. Big old stinker.
Yeah, do not give that one another view. I've been Blessing. That's been Roger. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.